So, welcome to the fourth video of this course, this introduction to Buddhist meditation, the visualization of the Tantric Stupa. And our theme, one of our themes today, is the fourth form of the stupa, the Pale Green Hemisphere, the upturned hemisphere. And linked to it, the element air, qualities of lightness and movement, lightness and mobility. And the associated Buddha, the green Buddha, Buddha Amoga Siddhi, unobstructed success, the all-accomplishing wisdom. And our supporting meditation practice will be, perhaps unsurprisingly, the mindfulness of breathing. But we'll start with continuing to look at the general symbolism of the elements and their development, at least certain key aspects of their development. So, we're continuing to look at the meaning of the five elements, and our source, as ever, Sangharakshita's excellent book, Creative Symbols of Tantric Buddhism. We saw that the teaching of the five elements is common to all schools of Buddhism. The first four, earth, water, fire, and air, make up the so-called material world. They're called Rupa, which is also the first of the five skandhas, the five heaps of conditioned or phenomenal existence. We saw how Rupa is often translated as form, but a more precise translation being the objective content of the perceptual situation, thanks to Dr. Gunter. We know Rupa through our senses. We know Rupa by its qualities. This is the objective content of the perceptual situation. But what it is in itself, we don't know, and we can't know, which is quite a thought. Which is maybe the reason why the four elements were also called the Mahabhutas, Mahabhuta, being translated as great ghosts. The fifth element being space, and Rupa exists in space. And here we mean space of the imaginal world, according to the words of Lama Govinda. Space of the imaginal world, where space is light, and light is space. But for the Tantra, the teaching of the five elements was too abstract. The Tantra being very concerned with direct experience. So The Tantra associated each element with a geometric form and colour. The forms and colour which were incorporated into the stupa. The 5 elements were incorporated into the stupa. The stupa became the 5 elements, became the universe, the external universe, as we saw in our last video. But that wasn't all. What was more, we shall see in a moment. But the stupa had a deeper tantric meaning. The tantrikas saw the stupa not only as a reflection of the universe, but a reflection of the mind. The 5 forms of the stupa were placed one on top of the other, not in any random order, but according to the level of refinement of the element concerned. The most gross at the bottom, the most refined on top. So the elements symbolize states of mind, states of psycho-spiritual energy. Psycho-spiritual energy that was transformed from the most gross into higher and higher levels, into the most refined at the top. So let's start at the beginning, looking again at these elements. Let's start at the bottom. Let's start with the element earth, representing static energy, potential energy, but not actual energy. Potential energy, maybe even being blocked energy. Maybe this is a familiar state. We feel there's energy in there somewhere, but we can't get to it. We can't get it out, express it, live it. If we live a long time like this, we just become harder and more distant. Sometimes explosions occur, emotional explosions. Nothing really changes. We just return to where we were, or worse. Sometimes we use alcohol to cause these explosions. Most of us use a fraction of the energy we have, or rather, the energy we are. So this is the element earth. The question for you: what's our experience of the element earth? The blocked, the potential state of mind? Is it something familiar? The element water symbolizes energy which moves. Energy flows. Energy flows downwards like water flows downwards. It can only flow upwards under pressure, under concerted pressure. Although it can flow from side to side, like the waters of the ocean with the tides, with the waves and tides. Our state of mind can be like this when energy moves but returns. Energy alternates between poles, extremes, love and hate, hope and fear, pleasure and pain, sobriety and drunkenness. There's a limited freedom, a narrow range of interests and activities, like a goat tied to a stick. This is a state of water. A question for you again. What's your experience of the element water? The element water is a state of mind. The element of fire symbolizes energy rising, energy being liberated. A level of consciousness is rising. A level of being in existence is rising. And we can experience joy, bliss, ecstasy. Our problems and conflicts are resolved. They can seem to us as dreams or smoke blown away by the wind, so we can hardly remember what it was like. It's a state of creativity, a state experienced by great artists and mystics, at least for a period of time, when creating. My question for you: do you have experience of this state, this element, the element fire, this state of mind? Or do you know anybody who has had this kind of experience? An artist or musician, perhaps? So is this the end of the path? Well, we still have air to go. Air is energy moving upwards and also moving in all directions, moving outwards from a central point, like heat and light moving from the sun, moving in all directions at once. This is the element air. Does the state of mind connected to the element air have any meaning for you? How do you understand it? Energy is symbolized by the element space. Now, the next state is a state altogether beyond words. We've moved into a new dimension, moved out of sight into a new dimension. So these are the 5 stages of transformation of our psychophysical energy, symbolized by the Tantric Stupa. The element earth, static, potential or blocked energy. Water, energy flowing between 2 extremes on the same level. Fire, energy rising upwards. Air, energy going in all directions of space at once. And space, energy entering a new dimension, ungraspable by the rational mind. So this too is what we're visualizing when we visualize the Tantric Stupa. So let's look once again at these 5 levels of a state of mind. Only let's use more concrete images. The state of earth is like a man bound by his hands and his feet. He can't move. He can't move. He can't even move his little finger. Maybe his head is bound, tied up in a hook, in a hood. He can't even blink. The man bound by hands and feet is the image for energy totally blocked. Have we had such an experience of blocked energy? What did we do to liberate it a little bit? How did it happen? Well, if we take off the hood, untie the ropes binding hands and feet. Maybe we'll find ourselves in a small cell, 6 foot in one direction, 6 foot in another. We can walk up and down all day if we like. A little energy in a confined space. This is a state of water, moving between pairs of opposites. Some even consider this freedom. The question for you are, what are your pairs of opposites? Where do you oscillate between? Not being able to fully stay at one pole or the other. In the fire state, it's like you manage to make a hole in a roof. And like a yogi, fly off into the clouds. What's given you most inspiration? Our next question. What lifts you up into the air above and beyond the usual confinements of life? And the air state, we can move up, and we can move from side to side. We can go down again and back up. We can move in all directions. We can move in all directions at the same time, like a miracle worker or a yogi with occult powers, multiplying themselves 1,000,000 times, moving in 1,000,000 directions, all at once from a central point, moving into the whole universe endlessly. And if that wasn't a challenge for our imagination, the state of space is even beyond this. Words break down. So this then are the symbols of the stupa associated with psycho-spiritual energy, as well as the material universe, the inner, the mental, the spiritual universe. These states that we can arise through if we so choose to make the choices to be able to do them. And the Tantra went even further, not only identifying the stupa with states of mind, but also the physical organism, identifying the stupa with the physical organism, with a parallel between the elements and the chakras. Chakra literally means circle, considered centers of psycho-spiritual energy. that are arranged on different points of the spiritual equivalent of the median nerve. Avaduti, duti, avaduti. Chakras, often pictured as lotuses with different numbers of petals, usually 7, but there can be other numbers, depending on the spiritual practice. You don't need all the chakras, in the same way that you don't need all the keys of a piano when playing a song. The Buddhist Tantra uses 5 chakras. As we saw, visualizing a stupa in our body, rather than in front of us, but inside us. Each element is linked to a particular chakra. The earth element is linked to the chakra that finds itself the width of 4 fingers below the navel. The water element at the chakra at the level of the navel. The fire element at the level of the heart. The air element at the level of the throat. And a space element on the head, on the top, or on the top of the head. So the stupa began to symbolize the human organism in meditation. We can see a picture of this. So there, a picture of the 5 elements, the 5 forms associated with the 5 elements. The cube, the sphere, the cone, the hemisphere, and the flaming drop. And a question for you, what's your experience of the chakras? Are you familiar with them? Have you done practices with them? So having looked more at the meaning of the forms of the stupa, let's move on to our supporting meditation practice. Our supporting meditation practice for this video is mindfulness for breathing. It's actually our last supporting practice. What we'll do in the last 2 videos will be something a little different. But what we've already done is the mindfulness of the body, formless meditation, metta bhavana, and now the mindfulness of breathing. But before we start, I'd first like to say why we do supporting practices. As I said, they support our visualization of the Tantric Stupa. But how do they support it? Well, to begin with, they develop our awareness of the elements. The elements being associated, of course, with the forms of the stupa. The element earth by the mindfulness of the body. The element water by formless meditation. The element air by the metta bhavana. And the element air now, I did say the element fire by the metta bhavana, didn't I? And the element air by the mindfulness of breathing. Secondly, they increase our general ability to concentrate, which helps with any kind of meditation practice. And thirdly, they give us more experience of direct experience. We live in a world of ideas, not least of ideas about ourselves. And as we have seen, the purpose of the Tantra in general, of which visualization of the Tantric Stupa is a part, is direct experience of our true nature, not mediated by ideas. So any meditation practice increases our direct experience. The mindfulness of the body increases our direct experience of the body. Formless meditation increases our direct experience of all our inner experience, the good, the bad, the ugly. The more receptive we are, the more our inner imaginal experience can come to life, the more akasha will be vibrant and living in us. Metta bhavana, here we're more specifically aware of our energies and emotions, especially focusing on the positive energies and positive emotions. And now, the mindfulness of breathing allows us to be more aware of our breath, the air around us, our more refined bodily experience. So in all these ways, the supporting meditation practices help us with the visualization of the Tantric Stupa. And just as we saw how the forms of the stupa are not placed one on top of the other in a random order, just so the supporting practices have a certain order. Firstly, foundation of everything, base of everything is awareness of the body. And secondly, receptivity to anything and everything that arises, formless meditation. Thirdly, a warm attitude to whatever arises, and focusing on the positive, encouraging the growth of the positive simply by our attention. That's samatha bhavana. And now ready for the mindfulness of breathing, developing psychic integration and concentration, which leads to a deeper peace, a deeper calm. And with all these 4 practices, we have a good basis for further practices. During the mindfulness of breathing, we can try to be as concentrated as we can be, as aware, as alert as we can be on the breath, because we have a good basis. The basis of these 3 qualities: awareness, receptivity, and warmth. It's important to have both these qualities together. Receptivity and being receptive and being energetic. Being receptive is important so our efforts aren't dry and harsh. Being energetic is important so we don't just drift. Usually, people tend to one pole or the other. The question for you is, which pole do you tend to? Do you tend to dry effort or to drifting along? So we're nearly ready to do the practice, the mindfulness of breathing. We try to be constantly aware of the breath, of the breathing, and just breathing naturally. It's not a breathing exercise. We're not trying to control the breath. We're not trying to breathe more deeply. We're just trying to be aware of the breath just as it is. To be as much as possible in the moment by focusing on the breath. And if we get distracted, if you start thinking, what shall I have for dinner, or anything else, it's okay. Just when we notice, just making the decision to come back to the breath and keeping on with the practice, keeping an aware, receptive and warm attitude to ourselves, to our bodies. And if we keep returning to the breath, over time our center of gravity will change away from the mind and ideas into our body, to a more deep and deeply satisfying experience of our body. Even though the main part of the practice is being aware of the breath, we do the practice in 4 stages. Each one demands a little more of us. In the first stage, we are aware of the breath and just count to ourselves after each out-breath. Breathe in, breathe out, count 1. Breathe in, breathe out, count 2. Continue to breathe in, breathe out, count 10. And then starting again, breathe in, breathe out, count 1. This just helps us use our rational mind in the practice, be a bit more objective about how we're doing. When we notice the mind has drifted away, we come back to the breath and start again. Breathe in, breathe out, count one. The first stage. In the second stage, we count before each in-breath. 1, breathe in, breathe out. 2, breathe in, breathe out. Up to 10 and back to 1 again. This demands a little more of us because we have to notice where each in-breath starts. There's a little pause between the end of the out-breath and the start of the in-breath. And we count after the pause rather than before it. So that's the second stage, counting before each in-breath. The third stage, we don't have the help of the numbers anymore. We just focus our attention on the breathing. Maybe focusing on the attention of our body as breathing as a whole. Or maybe a particular part of our body. Somewhere interesting, somewhere pleasant. We can focus our attention more on the element earth, how our muscles move with each breath. Or more on the element air, the sensations of the air as it passes through our nose, mouth and throat. So that's the third stage. And finally, the fourth stage, on our nose, on our lips, we're looking to notice the first point where we feel each in-breath, the last point each out-breath. In other words, we're looking to notice the most delicate, the most refined sensations connected with the breathing. So it demands the most attentive, the greatest degree of attentiveness in us. And these sensations, well, we don't usually feel them. So if we succeed in doing so, we've raised our level of awareness during the practice, which is, of course, what we're trying to do, trying to raise our level of awareness. So this is a practice we'll do in a moment. Just one last thing before we start. We're starting with an awareness of the element earth, with an awareness of our body, but also the element earth by the world around us. When we have our eyes closed, it doesn't mean seeing the world, but it means listening to the world. We can hear the sounds around us, to be in touch with Rupa around us. We can hear things perhaps that we never usually hear, or things we hear but never usually pay attention to. In this way, even by the very first thing we do when we meditate, listening to the sounds around us, we're raising our level of awareness. So, we're ready to do the practice. So now getting ready for the mindfulness of breathing. Firstly, my bolster behind my back. Bang for good posture, upright but comfortable. When you're ready, closing your eyes, and taking a moment just to be here. Taking a moment to listen to all the sounds around you. Taking a moment to listen to Rupa. How is Rupa sounding? How is the objective content sounding? Even if we can't know anything other than the sounds. And bringing our attention to our body, the foundation of everything, our physical body. We're looking to develop receptivity, curiosity to whatever arises. A warm, open attitude to prepare us for our practice of the mindfulness of breathing. In the first stage, being aware of the breath, and counting after each out-breath. And in the second stage, counting before each in-breath. And in the third stage, you drop the counting, just breathing. And in the fourth stage, focusing on the place where you first feel sensations of each in-breath, and the place where we feel the last sensations with each out-breath. Expanding your attention out, include your body as a whole. And expanding your attention still further into the room and beyond your room by listening to the sounds around you, listening to Rupa as it rules. And when you're ready, slowly and gently opening your eyes to finish the practice. So, how did it go? The mindfulness of breathing. We're nearly ready to move on to the visualization of the stupa, preparing for it. But since it's the last of our supporting practices, before we do, I'd just like to say there's a great value in doing all four practices. Some will always be easier for us than others. Some will always feel closer. It's a matter of temperament. But there's a value to developing all qualities. Firstly, the earth is stability, like a great mountain. Water is receptivity, like a great ocean. Water in all cultures is a symbol for the unconscious, so a great ocean with uncharted depths. And fire is energy, like the sun, source of all heat and light. And fourthly, lastly, air as lightness and movement. Air is freedom of a deeply concentrated mind, the freedom of a state of consciousness of deep concentration. When physical movements are light and easy and precise, the mind thinks quickly, clearly. So if we do all four practices, we can unify opposites like active and receptive approaches to practice, and unify the qualities of stability, receptivity, energy, and lightness into one single state of mind. Question for you: which of the supporting practices do you find easiest? Are you most attracted to? Or is it maybe visualization? And which is the hardest? So now, finally turning to the visualization of the stupa, the visualization of the Tantric Stupa, and focusing on the fourth form, the Pale Green Hemisphere, the upturned Pale Green Hemisphere. We can have a look at it. So there it is, the yellow cube, white sphere, the red cone, and the upturned, not so pale green to be truthful, but yeah, pale green hemisphere of the stupa. And it's associated with the element air. And coming back to Sangharakshita's poem, The Six Elements Speak, he writes, I am air, I am wind, breeze, and hurricane. I am that which exists in you, as the breath in your nostrils, in your lungs, the breath that gently comes, that gently goes, and air having the quality of lightness and movement and mobility. So remembering the mindfulness of breathing, the practice to develop concentration, the practice to develop psychic integration. Psychic integration meaning all our energies flowing together in harmony, having overcome internal conflicts, that being the true meaning of being concentrated, leading to a state of calmness and peace, vibrant, energetic calmness and peace, giving rise to physical movements, light, easy and precise, and a mind that thinks quickly and clearly. It's quite different to our usual idea of concentration as an effort of will, a forced effort. So this light, mobile concentration being associated with the element air. It's no surprise maybe that the wisdom of the associated Buddha is the all-accomplishing wisdom. The wisdom of the Buddha Amoghasiddhi, the Green Buddha, the Buddha, unobstructed success. Let's have a look at his image now. So, the Buddha of unobstructed success, having the all-accomplishing wisdom. Our artist, as usual, is Aloka. We'll chant the mantra of Amoghasiddhi during a practice. The oral image, the sound, if we could turn it into a sound of unobstructed success, of that lightness and ease and precision in action. If we do the stupa visualization in our body, the chakra relevant to this element is at the level of our throat. We use our throat to speak. We use air to speak in our throat. So that's where we visualize the green hemisphere. And we'll hear the full evocation of the element air from Sangharakshita's poem, The Six Elements Speak. So hopefully we're ready for the practice now. So, ready to do the practice? Ensure my good posture, as always. And we'll start the visualization of the Tantric Stupa. Let's see the image. Seeing the image there while we're meditating. So when you're ready, you can close your eyes. And take a moment just to be here, to listen to all the sounds around you. To listen to Rupa in existence around you. Bringing your attention to your body now. bringing your attention to your rupa, at least for the time being. Bringing your attention to your body, the sensations in your body. And what you recognize as happening in your body. The words you find to express your experience. And the different impulses and volitions. All in the context of your consciousness. And now, expanding your consciousness out in all directions, in front and behind, above and below, all the intermediate points, all the intermediate directions. And experiencing your consciousness spreading out in all directions. It's a clear blue sky, the vibrant blue sky, expanding out in all directions of space. Your imagination spreading out in all directions of imaginal space, of Akasha, Rupa in Akasha. And in the midst of the clear blue sky, we see the yellow cube before us or inside us. A brilliant yellow cube. Symbol for the element earth. And above the yellow cube, we see a white sphere, a dazzling white sphere. Symbol of the element water. And above the white sphere, we see a red cone, a burning red cone. Symbol of the element fire. And above the red cone, we see a pale green hemisphere, an upturned pale green hemisphere. Looking more deeply at its paleness, symbol of the element air. I am air, I am wind, breeze, and hurricane. I am that which exists in you as the breath in your nostrils, in your lungs, the breath that gently comes, that gently goes. But now I must go for the last time, leaving you empty. Now we must part. Goodbye. And above the pale green hemisphere, we see a rainbow-colored drop, a flaming drop, symbol of the element space. Now we can see the stupa as a whole. Feel the stupa as a whole. All the elements of our existence we can see situated in the clear blue sky of our consciousness. Seeing yourself as a whole, feeling yourself as a whole, knowing this is your true nature. Asking, what is your true nature? And slowly, the rainbow-coloured drop dissolves into the pale green hemisphere. Om Amagasiddhya Om. 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 Om Amagasiriya. 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 Om The pale green hemisphere slowly dissolves into the red cone. The red cone slowly dissolves into the white sphere. The white sphere slowly dissolves into the yellow cube. and the yellow cube slowly dissolves away into the clear blue sky. You sit in the midst of the clear blue sky, stretching out in all directions of space. And the clear blue sky itself slowly dissolves away, leaving us with our body, our rupa, and listening to the sounds around us, the sounds of rupa in the world. As we absorb the experience of the practice. So, last question for you. How did the Stupa visualization practice go? And that's it for this fourth video. A little resume. We looked at the symbolism of the pale green hemisphere, the stupa, the upturned hemisphere, connected with the element air, lightness, movement. We had an introduction to the Buddha, Amoghasiddhi, the wisdom, the all-accomplishing wisdom. And we did the stupa visualization practice. Our supporting meditation practice being the mindfulness of breathing, looking at how the concentrated mind can act with speed and grace. The body of the concentrated mind can also act with speed and grace. And started off, of course, by looking at the elements representing different states of mind, different states of consciousness. Transformation of consciousness. Questions? A quick recap. I don't think I'll get all of them, but it will give you a bit of a recap. What's your experience of the element earth when we talk about it as a blocked state of mind, blocked energy? Any experience of liberating energy? How did it happen? Your experience of the element water, oscillating between opposites. What are the opposites that you oscillate between? Never being satisfied with either of them, maybe. The element fire, energy arising, inspiration. Do you have this sort of experience, or do you know anybody who does? An artist or a musician, maybe? And what we heard about space, imaginal space. Which do you tend towards? A dry effort, or simply drifting in meditation? And which supporting practice is best for you? What do you feel closest to? Or is it visualization? Which supporting practice feels hardest? And how did the mindfulness of breathing go? How did the visualization practice go? And homework, if you can call it that, what to do before the next video, doing the mindfulness of breathing daily, doing the visualization of the Tantric Stupa, and chanting the mantra of Amoghasiddhi at the beginning or end of a meditation. And in everyday life, doing things with a concentrated mind, being fully present, to find that quality of lightness and ease in the way our mind works, in the way our body works. Can we discover that state and dwell in it more frequently? Next week, we'll be looking at the liberation of energies by initiation and by going for refuge. We'll be looking at the fifth form of the stupa, the flaming drop, and the associated element, space, akasha, which we've already seen a little about. And our Buddha is the Buddha Vairocana. And there'll be a guided meditation on the nature of akasha. My wish for you is a week or 2 weeks of concentrated states of mind that give rise to lightness, mobility in your thoughts, in your words, and in your deeds. Thank you for your attention.